I don't think that's Dean Ambrose. It doesn't really look like Dean Ambrose. I say that's a good job.
Do you guys think this is going to play out any longer? I mean, do you think this is going to play out much longer? Do you think it's going to go SummerSlam deep? I mean, where do you?
I just think Great Balls of Fire deep.
You think so? What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's Great Balls of Fire deep, and I just think that when we saw it live and the whole Miz comeback championship tour and the Maurice with the grandfather clock, I thought it was cool because again, I know I was flubbed when Dean Ambrose was the camera guy. That's not who I thought it was going to be, and then he ends up being the camera guy and comes out. So I think they could do some creative stuff with it, but the teddy bear thing and doing that, I think that it's like, oh boy, the creative team is kind of like, all right, I think we kind of ran the course.
We'll throw
here.
this together real quick.
And I said this when we first found out that this feud was going to continue to be a thing. I thought that maybe it could be stale. Jared said, hey, man, Miz is a new guy coming off WrestleMania. And there was some flair there that I didn't expect there to be, but I feel like it's starting to fade.
I will say this much. Speaking of the Miz and Dean Ambrose, speaking, though, of Great Balls of Fire, I wanted to bring this point up, and I kind of noticed that when we just said the name of the pay-per-view, it sounded strange. Great Balls of Fire deep. Is there anything that sounds more dirty than that? But I noticed this week on Raw, and this is exactly why this is a bad name for a pay-per-view event. Watching Monday Night Raw, Michael Cole never referred to the event as Great Balls of Fire. He always said the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view event, because just saying Great Balls of Fire sounded so silly and really didn't make any sense. When Brock Lesnar and Samoa Joe were going at it, he said, they're building this up to the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view event, because he can't just say, they're building this up to Great Balls of Fire. It just doesn't work, and that's why this is... And he didn't do that for anything else. He didn't say, they're building this match. This is going to be a great match at the WrestleMania pay-per-view event, or at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view event, or the Extreme... He said, at the Royal Rumble, or at Extreme Rules, or at WrestleMania. He had to say which if you look, the Great Balls of Fire, that's not the name. It's Great Balls of Fire. So the fact that he has to say the Great Balls of Fire event or the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view event shows it's not a good name, because you shouldn't have to add stuff to the name. That's why I always thought TNA was such an awful name for a wrestling organization, because, you always had to kind of explain it. As a fan, if I was talking to somebody, I didn't just say, did you see TNA last night? They'd say, yeah, I was watching Spike TV after 11 o'clock. There were some good girls on there. Oh, you're talking about wrestling. Like, that's why I thought that was a horrible name. I used to always have to call it like Impact Wrestling, and that's kind of why they had to change for the most part. I mean, I don't know if that's exactly why they had changed it, but I noticed that they used to always refer to a lot more like as Impact Wrestling, because they probably caught on pretty early that just saying TNA to non-wrestling fans was kind of silly sounding, and this is an example of why Great Balls of Fire is an awful name for a pay-per-view. Hopefully this is the first and last Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view event. And speaking of Great Balls of Fire, I think we're going to get a tag team championship match, because unfortunately we didn't get to see the finish of this one on Raw, a 2 out of 3 falls match for the tag team titles between the Hardys and Sheamus and Cesaro. I think a good way to finish. This is a good main event. I'm sick of seeing tag team matches with the heavyweights. This was a good main event for the Monday Night Raw this week. We didn't get the result exactly we wanted, but you know what? That might even be better.
It's going to draw it out a little bit more, so to speak. With the draw, it's going to draw it out a little bit more. It'll be set up for the pay-per-view. I wasn't surprised by the finish. I figured, okay, Sheamus and Cesaro are going to get one fall. Hardys will get a fall. And then something's going to happen where in my head, I was thinking, okay, I'm thinking pay-per-view. I'm thinking the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view. That's where I was thinking, but it was a good match. I wasn't surprised by the finish. I mean, it was a good way to go out.
What do you think about the tag team championship match, Boy Green?
The tag team championship match. I'm sorry, I lost you out there on the question.
You lost us. Oh, so what did you think what did you think about the match?
I mean, that's the question. What did you think of the tag team championship match?
Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Hey, Paul, are you falling asleep? What's going on, man?
Yeah, maybe at the wheel here.
Wake up!
Yeah, okay. So, the tag team championship match was, But we talked about this last week in terms of the whole Hardy Boys and the Cesaro and the Sheamus thing. I thought the count-out thing was a little weird. I thought that was a weird way to kind of end it. But again, I didn't think that Cesaro and Sheamus would win this, and then they'd get their rematch, and then they'd give up this title reign. This seems to be a title reign that's going to stick around for a while. And we got the nostalgia factor. We got what we wanted from WWE. Got what they wanted from this WrestleMania. Oh my God, it's the Hardys. Oh my God, they obviously had to win, and you got that effect. And then it kind of wore off. Now give new blood into the division with Cesaro and Sheamus, guys who have won the titles before. Give them a run at it. Develop a rivalry here. You can't have a rivalry if the Hardy Boys keep winning every time. So you have to have some back and forth here. So. I thought it was an interesting way to do it. I mean, you kind of give it this, in terms of a rematch, you give it this outside-the-box feel, like it's not like a clean loss kind of thing. So, again, it continues to build this up. So I think this is going to go through SummerSlam, and I think Cesaro and Sheamus are going to be the champions through SummerSlam. I don't see anything changing.
You really think they're going to be long? Do you think past SummerSlam, or do you think? I mean,
through SummerSlam at the very least.
Okay.
I think at a minimum it's going to go through SummerSlam. If the Hardy Boys can win it back at that point, or another tag team kind of comes out of nowhere that they bring up from either NXT or something new happens. Outside of that, I just don't see any way they can lose it before it. But maybe you could give it back to the Hardy Boys at that point.
Okay. Yeah, because my thing is, I'm assuming, of course, I think the Enzo and Cass storyline, I know we've been talking about that for the last few weeks, I think that's going to turn into a rivalry eventually between them and the Revival, as Dash and Wilder, a lot of folks will call them. That's where I'm thinking. I do think the Cesaro, Sheamus, tag team titles reign is going to be a little bit longer than maybe some anticipate. I could see it going into the fall for sure. I think it's going to be a back and forth, maybe where the Hardys come up close. They come up short. It's a great match where they come up short, something like that. I could see it going. I don't know about you guys, I could see it going, near Survivor Series. I mean, that's how good this tag team is, I think.
That's how good the Hardys are, you're saying?
No. So Sheamus and Cesaro.
Well, yeah, I
could see it. I mean, look at the New Day. They had the titles for a while. I mean, why not have another long term? I mean, I was watching I don't know if you guys have seen the Table for Three with Randy Orton, Ric Flair, and Bruno Sammartino. And the one thing I noticed from that, it was a 20-minute show. Very great. If you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out on the WWE Network. But the thing they talked about was you're not seeing long-term champions anymore. It's almost like you're kind of like passing the title around like a hot potato. A lot of those. I mean, Bruno had the title for many years. It wasn't just many days. He had it for many years. I'm not expecting somebody to be champion for 10 years, but I think having the titles change too much is not a good thing. I think you got to build it up for a while. I mean, that's why after I watched that, I thought about the Neville thing. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe Neville's just going to be carrying this thing for a while. Maybe he's the only guy.
Well, of course and no one's on the Neville level.
Austin Aries is on the level, but I mean, Austin Aries.
Is he? How many times has he beaten Neville, Brandon?
I know. I understand.
I'm just asking a question. Can you answer it real quick? How many times has he beaten Neville?
Yeah, I know the answer.
How many times has he faced Neville? How many chances is this guy going to get?
A lot of times. And here's the thing: WWE. Jared and I know Austin Aries. Jared will agree with me on this. I think maybe we'll see. I think Austin Aries should have been champion already for cruiserweights. I mean,
why?
He's a great competitor. He's got great mic skills, as he's shown as on the commentary table. He has the total package. Okay. I just think WWE's not using him the right way, and I hope he gets, because I know he's healing up from injuries and stuff. Hopefully he gets back as a title champ.
What is Neville's nickname?
Yeah, the King. I know. I got it.
The King of the Cruiserweights. So if he lost, how is he the King of the Cruiserweights anymore? It's the same thing with the Face of America, and maybe if I wasn't so short-sighted, I would have said that after. So I thought Chris Jericho was going to win on the pay-per-view back when the Kevin Owens feud. Then on Monday, I'm like, maybe Owens will win again. But obviously, after that, it was clear that Jericho was just going to leave when they had the other title match, and then they had the new ring gear and everything, Face of America. Of course he was going to win back the title. So this was another, of course, scenario here. King of the Cruiserweights. Neville has been dominant. He's great on the mic. He does phenomenal. He's great. He's a great technical wrestler. I just don't understand why... Because you just said that switching around the title a lot, he kind of devalues it, and then we turn around here, and then there's a guy who's consistently winning and getting the title. I think this is a guy who deserves a championship run, and for a long time.
I think, yes, I agree. I mean, I do say this. Having longer title reigns, it does build more of a, I don't know, kind of an aura, I guess, where I understand that point. But if you're going to have a longer title reign, I would have gone Austin Aries. That's just me. I respect Neville. I think he's a very good wrestler. But I think Austin Aries would carry that title better. That's my opinion on it. I'm not nothing. I'm not throwing shade on Neville, but I think Austin Aries is a better all around competitor. That's my opinion. Jared, what do you think?
I think I'm going to contact the Wheel of Fortune because I think they need on the Rhyme Time category to have Neville. No one's on the Neville level.
Love that. Love that one.
Okay, that is good.
I wonder how many people would guess that. I think you would probably fill out all the letters, and you'd probably have that 35-year-old housewife say, I can read it, but I'm not sure what I'm reading. So can I get more letters? Neville, is someone's on the level. No one's on the level of, I'm going to say Neville because it rhymes with level, even though if I just saw this word by itself, I probably wouldn't pronounce it that way. But no, I like what they're doing with Neville. They're hyping him up. I like the fact that they're giving him, a good run with this title, and they're kind of legitimizing the belt. The problem with that is obviously because of the fact that it's the belt that runs this entire show, so it's kind of hard to run a whole show around all these other people we don't care about unless they're fighting for the belt. I don't really care. They're trying to make us care about Noam Dar.
I don't know. I honestly, put him in NXT or something because I don't.
He's okay, and I said I would probably care about him more if he
I don't
was
think he's that good.
going for the belt.
I'm not. I don't buy into him and Alicia Fox. I just.
No,
I don't think that's a good. I don't think that's a good pairing. That's just me. I think it's very awkward.
And like I said, I like their matches, but I just feel like the storylines are just kind of a waste.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Cedric Alexander guy. I think he's pretty good. I think he's a possible contender, but he was just tied up with the Noam Dar thing, so we don't know what's going to happen there. But
well, Money in the Bank is this Sunday, and this was the SmackDown that was the go home episode before Money in the Bank. And here's what I'm going to tell you about that. If you're looking for the results, go to google.com because nothing this week happened on SmackDown that is worth talking about. Nothing happened this week on SmackDown that I can even, the show's only so long. We are going to designate this time to talk about money. Not this time, but more time to talk about Money in the Bank. SmackDown, nothing happened. So if you're really that interested in SmackDown, I would probably just tell yourself. I watched it on a bus yesterday, and I watched two things on a bus. The podcast, the Bring It to the Table podcast, which I recommend, 30 minutes long. I watched it for 30 minutes. SmackDown, 2 hours long. I might have watched it for 4 minutes just to see the results of the matches. But other than that, it was straight down the line, a go-home episode. And seeing it's only 2 hours long, I mean, they had a lot of matches, but they were just nothing. I mean, nothing that would find us any more interested in anything at all. The coolest thing happened, I'll throw this out there, Sami Zayn, he was kind of unique in the back when he was talking AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura.
That was my favorite part.
That was everyone's favorite part because everything else was just a meaningless Charlotte versus Natalia match, a meaningless six-man tag team match, I think there was another meaningless women's match. So that's your SmackDown recap for the week. And when we return, because, well, we're not going to talk anymore about SmackDown. When we return, though, the three questions we've been talking about all this week that we want your opinions, especially our panel's opinions on, and maybe even yours at home with the Twitter question of the week. We're going to get the Money in the Bank rundown and our tweet of the week later as you are listening to the Heel to the Face podcast on Sports War Radio, Rat Pack Radio, and now on iTunes.
The New York Jets are rising and are ready to compete in the AFC. Boyd Green and Ty Butler will give you everything you need to know about the Jets every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. From reviewing the previous game and looking ahead to the next matchup, to all of the news and four downs, the Jet Zone has everything. Follow at BoyGreen25 and at Ty D. Butler on Twitter. Proud member of Sports War Radio. Let the battle begin.
This program is simulcast on WRPR Rat Pack Radio. Go to ratpacksports.com for more information.